At the beginning of the game, I wanted an intro rather than a main menu, so I followed a tutorial to see how to make one. The video was informative and showed how to use a timeline within Unity to make an intro screen with text, so I started writing code to switch scenes and was unsure of how to write it better, so I then used AI to help ensure my code was right, and it corrected some things for me and made it look neater, which resulted in this. Initially, I went for 20 seconds, as you can see in the comments of the code. However, I later changed it to 35 as this allowed for the whole scene to play. I found this way of coding easier for me, and the audio tracks were found in Pixabay. However, to code the audio, I had to use an audio manager. I followed a tutorial by Rehope Games that I later had to edit myself to ensure the audio would loop consistently in game, as this tutorial didn't include this. This made my game have background music. However, I found that the SFX wasn't working after multiple trial and errors, so I eventually removed it. For the player to walk, I had to follow various tutorials for what I wanted. Blakey had a player animation and flip tutorial on his channel, as well as a player movement video, and I found both very helpful. Some adjustments were made using other videos, but it was ultimately finished, and even added my own movement to the game called Slide to make the movement feel smoother. The code allowed for the player's sprite to flip whenever she flipped, and that she could walk and jump, and if she didn't move, walking was false. I later added in the walking and idle animation easy. For collectibles, I followed this tutorial by Blakey also that counted how many notes a player collects throughout the game, keeping track of their score. This code also then edited the UI to that appeared on the screen. I applied the tag collectible note onto the note, and the notes were able to be tracked throughout the game. I also followed an enemy damage tutorial for the enemy that caused damage to the player, and found that there were several errors when I tried to place this onto my code. Therefore, I had to use AI to help add debugs and rewrote the code myself a little differently, and ultimately got rid of the errors. This meant I had shown that the damage done by the enemy was 100, and I mentioned player health so that if a collision takes place, they will take damage by whatever is mentioned in the code. This particular enemy does maximum damage, instantly killing the player. I reused this code throughout my game for things such as the spikes and the zombies, and edited the damage amount for each enemy. I also followed his Goomba stomp attack video tutorial, which was a struggle, as it didn't work on the first try. After trial and error, I was close to giving up on the monster stomp technique completely after re-editing and re-editing, so I had help from my lecturer as I was unsure what the problem was. In the end, the feet were made into a separate collider from the woman, and they were made a child of the object, and the zombie's head was marked as a weak point. Eventually, the stomp worked after several days of rewriting the code, and I was able to move on. Moving platforms were coded by using positions, where I'd create empties and name them point A or point B so that they could go in between these. I created a similar code for the zombie enemies to patrol the area, so I would incorporate the point A and point Bs. However, they would move consistently in one direction, so I wanted the zombies to flip, unlike the moving platforms, so I had to code the vector to be in the minus so that the zombie would flip. So instead of 666, it was minus 666 so that it would flip horizontally. I also wanted a game over screen incorporated into the game, and that it would only be on the screen if the player died. Therefore, I had a trigger put in for when the player's health reached 0, and you can find this in the player health script. Another trigger is when the player reaches the end of the level and touches the door, it automatically loads the windscreen due to the colliders of the door. The windscreen was made a separate scene so that it could just easily load the other scene. In the end, I learned how to effectively use AI so that I could learn and also discovered new ways of writing code. I have learned how to make my character jump, walk, and have a camera follow it, as well as incorporating enemies that fight. I will be using what I've learned in future projects and hope to build on what I couldn't or didn't have time to incorporate, such as the SFX sounds and proper weapons. I also hope to learn how to effectively design the level, as I made several mistakes in the design of this level, including the art, as I didn't size the tile maps correctly and had to fix it later. I also hope to animate my characters better and not to skip so many steps.